A traffic light with facial recognition. Cross on red, face a public shaming. And lose social credit points. In some Chinese cities, it's already a reality. Even those who sort their trash incorrectly have to reckon with point deductions in some places, as well as the penalties for low scores, like losing the right to ride the fast train. The point system is scheduled for full implementation across China by the end of 2020, and it'll also affect businesses. The new system will monitor whether businesses adhere to customs regulations, pay taxes, pay off loans, or follow environmental regulations. Those who flout the rules face point deductions. Experts warn that firms with bad scores could be hit with sanctions or even lose their licenses. It's a completely new system unique around the world. Everything relating to the company exists in a single system which produces a single score. We fundamentally support this system. It's a positive thing to clean up things in China, but there are uncertainties, and one of them is that it's difficult to see how the score is calculated. It's a system that still remains opaque to most businesses. According to the German Chamber of Commerce, 7 out of 10 German firms don't know what the new social credit system will mean for them.
Well, let's try and shed some light on this. I'm joined now by Professor Steve Tsang. He is director of the SOAS China Institute at the University of London, and he joins us in Nottingham today. Good to have you with us. So there are a lot of questions, Mark, about this credit system we just heard in this report. What is Beijing really looking at with evaluating businesses?
Well, what Beijing is looking at to achieve is to make sure that all the foreign companies operating in China will discharge a high degree of corporate social responsibility, which also involve performing political responsibility towards the Chinese government.
So what is Beijing willing to do to companies that don't score well enough?
Well, companies that score negatively in terms of the social credit will be punished. They will perhaps have access to markets being reduced, access to resources being restricted, or access to government being restricted, and other regulation being enforced much more stringently. We are dealing with a government which does not hesitate to punish foreign companies in order to make sure they toe the political line that the Chinese government imposes.
And how transparent will this system be? Will companies always know what hits them?
Well, in general terms, yes, because basically it means doing right by Chinese customers and by the Chinese government. It means not crossing any red line the Chinese government has laid down. Now, the problem here really is that when it is being looked at from the perspective of the companies, even though the general principles are clear, it is very, very difficult to know exactly what those principles would mean at any particular time. We already have examples of Western airlines and hotels referring to Taiwan as a territory and not as Taiwan, China, and they are being punished. That kind of things can happen, and companies can fall into that trap easily.
All right, so companies are already, having dealings with China, already have to sort of adhere to Chinese rules. But could this credit system now perhaps be just this one step too far for companies to at least expand further in China?
Probably not in the short term. I think companies will operate primarily with the bottom line in mind and the interests of the shareholders in mind. So they are already accepting all kinds of restrictions imposed by the Chinese government even before the social credit system is being introduced. And they will continue to do so unless and until it becomes really not profitable or viable for them to do so.
All right, Professor Steve Tsang there, Director of the SOAS China Institute at the University of London. Thank you so much for your time.